one of the probably most important cases in the valuation space is the Morgan Keegan case. And if you could talk about that a little bit and some of the
Sure.
lessons
So what was interesting about Morgan Keegan is, as I mentioned earlier, it's important when you're thinking about your valuation process that you involve the board as much as possible. And part of that is, they're an objective person. Part of it, they're empowered by law to oversee the fund. But part of it, quite frankly, is it's kind of inoculating the advisor who has an interest in the outcome of the valuation. So you have some evidence of oversight that can be helpful if there's a problem later. And I think one of the kind of corollaries of that is until Morgan Keegan, I won't say it's never happened, but the SEC is always a little bit wary of challenging independent directors. They view the independent directors within a fund as their allies. They've given speeches to this effect. They don't want to discourage prominent people from sitting on boards and exercising oversight, and so they are reluctant to bring enforcement actions. I think with Morgan Keegan, the fact patterns were fairly horrendous in the sense that there was evidence that the board of directors was not familiar, quite frankly, with the valuation policies and procedures that had been established by the advisor. There was evidence that there was no periodic review of the valuation policies and procedures that had been implemented, nor was there any follow-up when there were apparent deviations between valuations that were coming out of the valuation process and the policies and procedures that had in theory been established by the board. And so when you put all of those things together, I think the SEC felt that it couldn't simply bring an action against the advisor because whether or not there was complicity or not, I don't think they challenged, but they focused almost entirely on process, and they demonstrated it to the satisfaction of the court that the board had not exercised appropriate oversight in that case. And so I think that was helpful. That was a shot across the bow to boards to stay engaged. But I think then quickly the staff actually gave some speeches saying, that if the board is following the policies and procedures that it is established and conducting appropriate oversight, that should not be taken as a challenge to the role of independent directors, that independent directors need to do what they're charged with doing, but people shouldn't resign from boards en masse because of potential liability from being a director. And I don't know, Matt, you obviously were involved in this a little bit, but were you at the staff now? Oh, okay.
I think what you're saying is accurate about the board of directors, and they are definitely reluctant to bring actions against them because for what you said, they want them to sit. They want prominent people to sit on boards. So, but obviously, anytime things are so far astray from sort of a norm, the enforcement division is going to take some action and make a statement. And in this case, it does.
Yeah, I mean, I would add a couple things. We had a lot of discussions with boards after that about real concerns by independent directors who often have enormously high net worths, and they're getting $80,000, $100,000 a year to sit on this board, and they say to themselves, that's not a very good kind of bid-ask arrangement where I'm putting my entire net worth at risk potentially if I was found personally liable, and on the other hand, I'm getting a relatively small compensation for doing so. And we did spend time with them, but frankly, as I said, the SEC was outspoken in saying that this is not the routine, this is not our normal posture, but this was an extreme case. And I think that it's settled down a little bit, but that was definitely an effective shot across the bow. And all of our boards that we worked with, I think, really snapped to attention and spent more time on kicking the tires on valuation policies. We'll talk about some of that, but that definitely had the desired effect, I think, from the